Okay, so today we're going to learn how to trim. Once you have your tumbler, you want it to be leather hard. So by touching the clay, I can tell that it's leather hard because I'm not removing any of the clay. It's not sticky and it's not wet, but I could still put my fingernail into the clay. Okay, so on your wheel, you don't need a bat. You're going to take your piece and you're going to turn it upside down. And you are going to use the concentric circles in the middle of the wheel head to line it up the best you can. Once your clay is lined up as best you can, you want to use your needle tool, and very slowly we are going to draw a circle. Let me point one thing out first. Before you set your clay onto your wheel head, please make sure that you're in charge of your foot pedal. Make sure that your power is on and your foot pedal is off. The reason I say this, if this is my clay and I go to set it down and I come over to turn on my wheel power and I haven't checked the foot pedal, what just happened to my clay? You've just ruined your piece. So please make sure that your power is on and your foot pedal is off. Okay, so now I'm going to set my piece down and I'm going to use these concentric circles, lining it up the best I can. Holding on to my needle tool, lefties, we can turn your wheel the other direction and you can do this in your left hand. The rest of us are going to leave the wheel going in the same direction as it always does. We're going to do this in our right hand. Your left thumb is still your hinge and your left fingertips are going to hold onto the very center of your pot that's upside down. And I'm going to slowly draw a circle. Okay, so now that I know my circle is there, I need to center the circle. It's pretty clear that this side is much smaller than this side. I'm going to move towards the skinny side. So I'm going to shift my piece slightly towards the thin side. I'm going to use the pad of my finger and erase my line. And we're going to do it again. Okay, now let's center our circle again. This side is slightly thinner than this side, so I'm going to shift that way. Very little. That looks pretty good. So now that I'm centered, I have a little tiny piece of clay. I don't need much from the block, and I'm going to break it into 4 pieces. I don't want this to shift out of the way. The goal of this clay is to hold your vessel in place so that we can address the foot and clean it up. So I'm going to make these into like hot dog type shapes, and I'm going to hold the piece down slightly away from my vessel, and holding my fingertips under the wheel head, I'm going to press down so that the clay gently touches my vessel and holds it into place. I need to make sure I'm holding on because I don't want this to shift as I connect. If I push too hard on this clay that I'm pushing onto my wheel head, if I push in, I'm going to make the top lip that's on the wheel head oval. Again, that's not my goal. I'm just trying to hold it in place so that I can trim. Okay, so now it's time to trim. The tools that you will need for trimming. You will need a combination of these 4 tools. So this is your large ribbon tool that's at your wheel. You've got a small ribbon tool. You've got this black trimming tool that's double-edged. We'll probably save this one until we get a little further into our process and a little more advanced. And then you have your red rib. So for today, I'm going to stick with these 3. I'm first going to start with my large trimming tool. If there's any dried out clay on your tool, please make sure you remove it because it will scar the surface of your vessel. So I like to hold this tool. Again, lefties, you can keep the wheel going left, but you have to work at 9 o'clock if you're going to do that. The rest of us are going to work at 3 o'clock. My left thumb becomes my hinge, just like in everything else that we've done. My left fingertips are going to hold onto my vessel, and this front edge becomes my cutting edge. This is called a ribbon tool because it will remove a ribbon of clay. So I'm going to go fairly fast. And you can see the ribbon of clay that it's it's going to remove, okay? So this large tool is just for you to remove the big stuff, okay? Once you've removed all of the big abnormalities, now we're going to move to the smaller trimming tool. The smaller trimming tool is double-sided, and you can use whichever side you want. It all depends on the aesthetic. The aesthetic is how something looks to you. You are the artist. These are your decisions, okay? I'm gonna use the rounded side just to clean up a little bit. And you can keep a spiral if you want. There's all different things you can do on your vessel. I'm gonna tip this to use the other side, and I'm gonna lean way down and grab my clay so I can clean up the bottom edge of that bevel where my foot is. And for this vessel, we're gonna keep your foot flat. The foot is this bottom part, okay? In future pieces, we'll remove the center area of your clay, so then you have a foot ring. For this first piece that you're doing, we're just gonna keep it flat. So this is pretty cleaned up. The last step is going to be to smooth it out and compress. So I don't actually want these lines here for today. Even if you do want the lines, you wanna compress and then go back to add them. So I'm gonna use this, and it's almost like spreading butter. And I'm just going to compress. Again, I'm not doing this single-handed. If you notice, my hands are supporting each other. Okay, and it's nice and clean. So, if you are finished with this piece, the last step will be for you to sign your vessel. There are smudge sticks like this that you can use and draw like a pencil. You could use an actual pencil to write on your piece. You can use one of the letter stamps, or you can make a design. I would encourage you not to use a needle tool to sign because it scars the surface. I like to use a stamp. So, there's my signature. And now my piece, once I take it off, is trimmed and ready for the next step.